Hello, and welcome again to Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. Today is April 14th, 2021. My name is Steve, and tonight our baseball panel includes 13-year professional infielder and current youth development coach Eddie Cervantes, 13-year professional catcher and current youth development coach Matt Ceriani, 13-year professional player and current youth development coach Stoney Briggs, and of course, Mr. Leon Lee, 17-year professional player as well as scout, coach, manager, and current youth development coach. So let's just jump right in and join the guys and see what the topics are tonight.
But anyway, me and Stoney was talking today. We talk all the time, Matt, Eddie, and one of the things I don't know about you guys, but we always talk about the kids and coaching, and we try to leave some thoughts. And the one thing I really like to talk about, and it's kind of repeating it a little bit, but I remember reading that book, The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And I don't know if you guys read it, but there's one part in that book, a big part of that book, where he talks about the 10,000 hour rule. And it really means a lot, because they talk about the Beatles and how the Beatles got great was they just played music all the time. They didn't think about it, but over a period of time, they'd actually accumulated over 10,000 hours of playing time. And then they became the top recording band in the world, in the same way with Bill Gates with Microsoft. He was a computer genius, worked out of his garage, did computer, when before computers became a big deal. Next thing you know, he's a multi-billionaire with Microsoft. And I put the same thing with us. When we were young, we probably got our 10,000 hours in without even thinking about it, because every single day we were out there from sun up to sundown playing pickup ball, whether it's wiffle ball or playing catch or stick ball or strikeout. But kids nowadays, all they do is 2 hours a day with their coach, and the coach control everything. And I was talking to one of the teams the other day, and I go, really, if you looked at the 10,000 hour rule, the coaches are taking all the hours. And then the players just listen to the coach. And the next thing you know, that you feel like you're doing a lot of baseball, 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's only 14 hours a week. You wonder, how long is it going to take you to get to 10,000 hours? Right? So I thought maybe, it's good to talk to the kids out there today about, the things they can do, not only individually. We've talked about, you can throw balls against the wall, you work on grips, you can do. But Eddie, I mean, how many days a week, or you guys could attest to this, how many days a week when we were little that we go out and play wiffle ball with our friends?
Well, yeah, you're right. But there was a combination of things, like you were saying earlier. We're playing wiffle ball. We were playing three flies up. We were playing 500. We were playing 4-on-4 games. We're closing out right field. We're doing all these different things, and we're playing. Yeah, during the summertime, we're playing, 3-4 days a week. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that makes things different these days. And I ran into it when we first moved out to the place that we're in right now. When the boys, Edward and Alex, when they were growing up, they were both 7 and 10, or right around there when we moved out here. One day, and we have a park about a quarter mile away, about 6-7 blocks. And one day I told him, I says, hey, go to the park and go play catch, or go do something at the park. And Paulette, my wife, was right there with me, and she goes, no. And she stopped me right there and says, they're not going to the park by themselves at their age, and that's the difference these days, because of how society changed. We were free to do that when we were younger, and there weren't any consequences that all of a sudden started coming up a lot more with kids in these last decades, as far as growing up and things that can happen to them. And so that's part of the reason why I'm guessing that their only access is to the coaches in that situation. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I was talking to Stoney today, and he was talking about have that small field mentality. We do this half fields. What were you saying, Stoney? You were back in the, wiffle ball games and little different kind of games that kids could play on the half field without any coaches being around.
Yeah, you just you get a group of guys and you go out there and same thing like Eddie said, you cut off a certain part of the field, left field, right field. You can only play here, when the 4-on-4, and just you hone your skills and work on something that we didn't have ESPN or back in the day. So once you saw a highlight from plays of the week, then you had to keep that in your mind and go out there and mimic that play for week after week until the next weekend you saw plays of the week again, and then you get to see the best of the Major League Baseball plays, and you go outside and you try and mimic it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I remember watching Matt give a lesson one time. We've all been here. Okay, we give lessons. Matt's giving a catching lesson, and one of the parents was standing right up on the screen, and I didn't think he was trying to learn from Matt as much as he was trying to be part of his son's lesson. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Matt's kind of, now you're in a situation where the father's there, you kind of get in that position where, okay, you want to say or teach the kid something with the parent listening, even assuming that maybe they want to learn something. But Matt, I don't know about you, but I hate parents sitting over their kids at 24 hours 7 and let you be the guy to teach them. That's why they got you there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, just if you want me to be there, I'm word of mouth. Like, that's the way I don't advertise for what I do. And so if you want to get what I'm telling you, just listen. If you have something to say, let's talk about it afterwards. Or, otherwise, just soak it all up. Understand, like, I'm just trying to teach what I'm seeing in the moment, and like show them, because a lot of it's an energy. It's a flow towards the ball. It's a set of rules that you got to kind of follow so that you don't make mistakes. And it's the one position where mistakes show up so blatantly, if you haven't had the right mindset or the right setup. I mean, I was telling a player yesterday, it's probably 95% mental, 5% physical, because if your body hurts so bad that you can't put it in the right position and send it in the right kind of space, that's mental. Like, the 5% physical, you can do that anytime you want to do it. You have to tell yourself you want to do it. So yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of different levels of thinking when it comes to that position. Pitching is, I would say, the same thing too, because pitching has and hitting as well. I mean, the levels that you have to think about with all the different scenarios, with everything, there's nothing easy about that part.
Well, I tell you, last week, it wasn't last week, a couple of days ago, there's a base runner for the Yankees. And Steve, I hate to get on your Dodgers a little bit, but you get a guy hit a home run or a ball it's a home run. The runner at first ran around second, thought the guy at left field had caught it going over the fence, comes back around, touches second, sprinting to first, and the person who hit the home run runs past him. Yeah. And then yesterday, I think one of the runners for the Yankees gets picked off on a play where he should have been standing on second. Now, what I'm saying is, we played enough pickup ball that those kind of mistakes should never happen, especially at the major league level. Now, I don't want to be a judge of Major League Baseball, but actually I will be, because I'm watching some of these baseball games and I'm looking at base running atrocities. I'm looking at mechanical baseball where players read balls in the dirt. I mean, even Matt, as good a catcher as he is, a guy throws a 58-mile-an-hour curveball 56 feet, and it bounces up, hit him off the chest, and runs 10 feet away from him, and the runner's still standing on first base. I mean, to me, these wiffle ball games, like Stoney was saying, and kids playing pickup ball and learning how to be daring, they learn more, I think, from doing that than they do under a coach's instruction, where they may just work on one specific thing that whole day and not work on other parts of their game.
You're right. You're right. It's the idea of learning something is much more fun, and it means more when you're able to learn on your own. And kids figure things out. They figure things out. Some of them figure it out easier, quicker, better than others, and then others take a little longer. But that's just the way things are. And yeah, you're right. It is different with a coach.
Yeah, but if I look at Steve, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I saw those plays you were talking about, and those were Dodgers or no Dodgers. I mean, it's hard to watch that stuff, especially at that level with any team that I'm watching. Let alone a team that you want to enjoy watching. But I think those wiffle ball games that we all played, the street ball, wiffle ball, throwing against the garage door, they teach you things like instinct and rhythm and kind of that flow that Matt was talking about, that in those structured practices, I just don't think the kids learn, that you can learn on your own, that instinct that you can learn playing wiffle ball and street ball.
But I think it's like, for example, I think we all did it. You get a big wall or a fence or something. You get a baseball or a tennis ball or a racquetball or something. You ever played against an opponent? You have guys waiting where you're throwing the ball against the wall at angles, and that other guy's got to get the ball on one bounce or in the air. He can't let it bounce twice. And once he catches, he got to get his feet set and get rid of it. You can't hold it or you can't move to another position. You got to throw it from that particular angle. So the defensive guys got to anticipate where that angle is from where the kid is before he even throws it, and start getting yourself in the position to catch that ball off that angle. So you learn how to start anticipating. To me, when you're playing games like that, or strikeout, or like Stoney said, holding off the field, you start learning how to improvise yourself and actually sing. You learn, to me, you get closer to your 10,000 hours playing those games and learning more than a 2-hour practice with a coach who ain't never played before. Because I tell you, some of these coaches, I'll be honest, I've seen them, and the worst ones are the ones that don't know that they don't know. And from our standpoint, the most dangerous coach out there is the ones that start playing guessing games and start having kids run through drills that they've never done themselves, and they don't know what they're leading to or how they're going to apply to a baseball game. So I think the kids, and we'll say it on this podcast, the good players are going to have to not necessarily be a rebel, but they have to take that time themselves and say, do I really want to be a good ball player, or I just want to go out there in a uniform and listen to the coach and put my 2 hours in and go home and play video games? Because the real ball player, what Stoney and them guys do in Baltimore, the real ball player is obligated to go out there and think a little bit, even if he thinks something that doesn't work that particular time. Doesn't mean it's the wrong thought. It's that he thought something. Am I right?
Yes. And what we do is we'll do inter squad games, and I'm not in either dugout, and but I'm behind the backstop, and I'm taking notes for different game situations that guys are in that they took advantage of or did not take advantage of. And then we just sit down and discuss it, because at some point in time, again, in their career, or maybe that week or in that game, that situation is going to come up again. And it might be winning time. It might be time to win or lose a championship, win or lose or stay in a tournament. So it might be the most important time of that weekend for your team.
Stoney and Leon, I don't know if you remember, we used to have this conversation at breakfast, Leon, quite a bit when we were talking about putting our what I don't know how many times we've talked about our clinics and schools of baseball. But anyway, and we did our thing. But one of the things that we were really focused on trying to do was creating the same type of thing what you're talking about, Stoney, but in the Sandlot atmosphere. In other words, we're not part of, we talked about getting the kids out, having them choose up teams, or maybe we would choose teams for them, depending what the situation was. And then we'd even toss up a bat and they'd do the
The
who
old
hits
school.
first.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we'd run them through the whole sandlot thing and then let them play. Just throw the bat and balls out there and let them play the way we played. And we would just sit back and just kind of, like you said, Stoney, taking notes and mental notes, and maybe who knows, maybe even writing some things down to be able to discuss it and bring it up at a time after they'd played 3 or 4 innings, and just let them go. One of the beauties of that is, if you remember doing that, we were also our own umpires.
Yeah.
We were our own officials. We would, on close plays that, we always, if we didn't have enough players, pitcher's mound was as good as first, we would say, so the infielder or who had, all he had to do is throw it to the pitcher, and, and if it beat, we get the next close one. And so, there was that type of arbitering going on where it just made things, everything was workable. Everything was for the good of the game. And man, that's we never ever. And I think we're on the cusp of trying to get that, Leon, of doing something, but with just the younger kids who can, the older kids, now you create something different. But with younger kids, I think you can do it, because we were learning. We were out there at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and we were having fun.
Well, that's the key word, is fun. And Stoney, sometime we start the game, and I'd bet the guys that Matt was there sometime with me. I would be pitching, and I could still get up there pretty good. And I would bet the kids there's no way they're going to score a run. And boy, they get guys on base, and the guy didn't take the extra base. And me and Eddie be going, what's up? You scared? You scared to take the extra base? We put them to the challenge all the time. A guy miss a ball, and we yell at him, say, put a glove on that foot. So we you make them aware of it, but you do it in a fun way that, okay, I'll show you, I'll get the next one. They're not dropping their head and getting upset, and the coach is yelling at them, and all of a sudden they're all tense and nervous and scared to do the next thing, because the next step is always the most important step. The next thing you do after you miss a ball is always the most important thing. So you want to have a kid say, if I make a mistake or if I miss something, okay, let me get back onto the next thing. And the only way you can do that is you got to make that kid hold his head up and smile at himself a little bit. We all want to catch it, but the kids got to understand, hey, if I miss it, okay, I'll get the next one type thing.
And remember what you said, Mr. Lee, that's a thing that our kids have. Once they make an error or do something like that, it's next play. And then you'll hear it come from every kid out there, and to bring that kid's spirits up. Next play. Don't worry about it. Next play.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is key.
Hey, Leon, since you brought it up, I'm wondering real quick, what's the ruling on that play you saw on TV? The guy passed so what do you got now?
Well, the guy the home run turns into a single.
And who's out?
And the base runner's out.
The base runner or the hitter?
The hitter was out.
Oh, the hitter's out. You're right.
The hitter is out because he passed his.
He passed.
finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like a comedy show when you saw it on the video. Justin Turner had his head down. He was flying back to first. And who was that hit the home run?
Bellinger.
He was running around the bags, and he never even saw Turner run by him. That's the funniest thing I ever seen. But I mean, if you took notes, the catcher, it was a play the other day. The guy struck out. The batter struck out, and the ball got away from the catcher a little bit. And it wasn't far. He still had time to pick the ball up and get it down to first. No, you know what? That was a college game. And then the catcher picked it up. There was a runner at third. He picks the ball up and looks down to third. And then by the time he throws to first, the guy beat the ball out, and it was 2 outs.
Wow.
It was And you're going like, wait a minute. And you know, another time where I was doing the radio for the River Cats guys. So I don't know if you were at the game. It was a Portland Sacramento River Cats game. The River Cats are down by 1 run. The starting pitcher getting to the 8th inning walks the first hitter. So he's done. They bring this kid in throwing about 95. He throws 4 straight balls to the next hitter. So you got 2 men on, nobody on. The next guy comes up. He throws 4 straight all high balls. Bases loaded, nobody out. This guy's thrown 8 straight high balls. The next hitter comes up with nobody out with bases loaded, 3 straight high balls. This is the honest to God truth. You can't make this stuff up. So he's thrown 11 straight high balls in between a matchup, a pitching coach coming out to kill some time, getting somebody ready in the bullpen, because obviously this guy don't have it. 3-0, here comes another high ball. The guy swings at it, pops the ball up to the catcher, and says after the game he thought that was a good count to hit on to break the game open. 3-0, and the guy's thrown 11 straight high balls, and you're down by a run with bases loaded. The next hitter comes up, and the pitcher starts off the hitter with a breaking ball, which is first curveball of the outing after throwing 12 straight balls. The hitter swings, rolls over on a down and away pitch out of the zone, 6-4-3 double play. And I'm sitting there in the booth, and I want kids to hear this. I was sitting there in the booth. This guy had thrown 13 straight balls and got out of the inning with no runs. That's AAA baseball. So how do we teach kids? There's just, and Steve Scarstoni, the manager, the next day says, Leon, do you think I need to give the hitter a take sign in that situation? I mean, what do you think?
Well, in Little League, you got to take sign in those situations, and that kind of prepped you for learning the basics, fundamentals of playing the game as you got older. So yeah, we got that stuff. I don't know if very many. I can imagine that Stoney and their group is doing a good job with that type of stuff. But there are so many coaches out there that just don't know how to teach that kind of stuff. And that's why it's just, they're not learning it at a young age. And so you're seeing it at the higher levels.
Well, Steve brought it up to me today, and I want Matt to comment on this one. Steve, it used to be, Matt, right? The catchers now are wearing those big wristbands, right?
Yeah.
So now, yeah, what Leon's referring to is I saw in college baseball and college softball now, not only the catcher is using the wristband with the cheat sheet, are also using the wristband with cheat sheet. And what's happening is both of them look to the dugout before each pitch, then they look to the wristband, and then he throws the pitch. So there's no sign between the catcher and pitcher anymore. And what's happening?
Yeah.
And what happened was I noticed that in the softball, that really actually slows the game down, and it kind of destroys the natural rhythm of the game. And I wanted you guys to comment on that, or this. I don't know if you've seen that yet or not. I just noticed that just this season.
Yeah, I can actually speak to that on the softball side of things, because I'm up in I'm helping with the varsity team out in Payson, Arizona, the high school there, and they've all got wristbands, and they've all got these codes and these numbers, and I mean, you know, they're quick at it because they do it a lot, but I mean, I'm completely lost. I hear like, 2-1-3, and they all look at their wristband and they open it up and they look at it and they strap it back down, and then there's a pitch and then there's a play. But to me, I mean, I'm over there like, it doesn't matter what you say. I'm a little dazed and confused at that moment. I'm like, what's going on right now? Like, why? I don't need these numbers. I don't need to see what somebody's doing. But at the same time, I'm understanding that, like, I've never coached softball before, so I'm accepting what's going on, and I'm like, this is a little weird. And I asked the coach at some point, I go, what's with this? And the guy will say, like, well, this means that the pitch going here, and this means that this is the rotation of the defense. And I go, well, how come the catcher's not calling this sign? And they go, well, the catcher can't do that. And I go, well, if you taught the catcher to do it, they could do it. Like I've never been told what to call, and I do all my own runner control and everything. And he was a little blown away, but I go, I guess it's just the times. I mean, you don't have people that are capable of teaching that or have the knowledge, because it's a higher level of skill set. I mean, it's not a simple, single layered thing. It's multi-layered. There's, the score, there's the game, there's the pitcher, there's the ball that's thrown, that's the actual moment, there's the runners. It's multi-layered. So I get that they, coaches at the higher level can plug and play players. It's like an organization. You have the same set of organizational signs, so that you come up, you don't have to, all the signs in an organization are the same. If you're on base, or if you're a hitter, or if you're catching and pitching and runner control, all that's the same. So, I mean, I get it, but it's a little weird.
Answer me this question, Matt. And one year when I was with St. Louis, they converted me to a catcher. I thought I did a pretty good job back there. I loved it, matter of fact, but we weren't ever tasked with having to pick up signs from coaches. But I had an amateur coach say, well, catcher's got enough on his mind without having to call pitches. And I know Stoney can answer to this too, but as a catcher, the busier I was back there, the more control I had to call the signs, because that was a part of the whole package. I knew the hitters. I knew what they were trying to do. I knew the situation. I knew how my pitcher was throwing.
I agree.
Whether he was sharp that night with his off speed, whether he was high in the zone with his fastball. Sometimes a pitcher is struggling with one pitch. You got to utilize that pitch in situations where you can utilize it, but not get killed by it, and pick another pitch that's working. Right.
Yep. You're a signal sender, like your job is to send signals. That means to the pickoffs. That means to the pitch.
There you go.
That means to the rest of the team. So why have two signal callers when you can have one signal caller that's intelligent enough to handle all the operations? Like, that's what you're saying. Like, you didn't need to look over to get the operations chart to see what this guy did last time, because you remember.
Exactly.
You're still sitting there. You're not distracted. I mean, totally. Like, I agree with you. Like, the less I had to look in, the more I could control, the more I had the rights to control, like the more I had operation of the ship, the easier it was, the quicker the games go. I think the games go slow now because there's too much of that. Like, the catcher's just sitting around waiting for a sign. Well, if the guy in the dugout's got three other things to do, and he doesn't realize that you're looking at him for 3 seconds or 5 seconds or 7, now the game lags. So why not just give the control of the ship to the captain, who happens to be the catcher, who's calling the pitches? And if you have say you have a catching situation where one guy catches 5 days and one guy catches 2 days.
Well, we had a time, Eddie, and I know Stoney can relate to this. If you put your head in that dugout too many times, you get criticized. I mean, pitchers start looking at the dugout. I mean, he's looking to come out the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking right there. He's looking for help. It's like, what are you looking to the dugout for?
Yeah,
I mean, you got to stay focused on where you're looking, right?
And our coach would let you know, hey, what are you looking at me for?
Yeah.
Did you leave something in here?
What do you need?
Now it's the other way around, Steve. Now, if you look at it, coach, they say, wait a minute, whoa, stop, don't pitch. You haven't looked at me yet.
Yeah, and here's the other concern I have with that. After doing a little bit of pitching in the youth league days myself, and we've all heard the stories about Sandy Koufax, not having a curveball some days and just throwing all fastballs. If you tell a pitcher to throw a pitch and he doesn't feel comfortable throwing that pitch that day, then if his mind and heart aren't into that pitch, how good is the execution going to be? If he's just being told to throw that curveball and he's like, man, I'm not feeling my curveball today, I might hang this one. What's going to happen?
But if I got Stoney at the plate, Stoney's at the plate. Stoney is in the moment. The pitcher is in the moment. The game is going on right now, this moment. But the coaches told Stoney, or pitching coaches told the pitcher something about the other guy, what he was doing 2 weeks ago. So the information he's getting from 2 weeks ago is totally not applicable to today. 2 weeks ago in this game is ancient history. You can take some information and learn a little bit by it, but if Stoney's at the plate and he's my top hitter, one of my top hitters, the last thing I want Stoney thinking is what the pitcher threw him 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Leon, it's like to kind of relate it to golf. You tee up a ball and you got a lake on the right and you got open fairway left. And if you step to address that ball and you're looking out and you go, if the first thing that comes in your head is, don't hit it into the water. Well, that's what you don't want to do. You've put a negative thought into your head. And it doesn't even have to be a negative thought in baseball. All it has to be is just some thought that doesn't matter in the situation. And it's not coming from you. If I'm up there stepping into the plate and I've got my approach thinking going on, I don't need to hear anybody else tell me, hey, lay off of the high pitch, type of thing.
Exactly.
I'm focused. I'm in my element there. And that's where, going back to, Matt with catchers and intelligence. And I think some coaches don't think some catchers are intelligent enough to handle all that. Well, you know what? What's the saying? We only use 10% of our brain capacity.
If that.
And so, it's like, well, if a hitter can move into what does a hitter have depending on the level? How much time when the ball is released from the pitcher's hand to the time it gets to the hitting zone? How much time elapses? Less than a second? Right around there, right?
Yeah.
A second less, depending on the level and how hard the kid's throwing. Lower levels, of course, kids aren't throwing very hard. So you got, a little bit more time. My point is, our brain in that short period of time has to figure out velocity. It has to figure out location, in, out, up, down, and it has to figure out a type of pitch. You got to do all that. And listen a second. Come on, you can't tell me that the brain that catchers can't handle all that information. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I don't think that they can't handle the information. I think it's just a mistrust with the coaches,
Exactly.
with not wanting to give up, being in charge.
Exactly.
And like you said earlier, is with the kids, how are they going to learn if they don't get to go out on their own and make those mistakes and say, oh, I messed it up this way, and we laughing about it, and the same play comes again 2 plays later. Now I made that play because I know how I messed it up a couple plays ago, and there's no pressure. But, a lot of these coaches, I think, with their jobs being on the line and, in the college level, their jobs are on the line. So do I really want to put, my career and my paying job in, these kids' hands? I don't think they do.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah, it shows. You're right.
Yep.
But then you get the coaches that they tell a kid to do something. And if the kid asks why, he's been insubordinate.
Yeah.
And then you hear the coach, the kid asks why, and they go, because I said so.
Yeah.
To me, that's the worst answer in history.
Yeah.
The kid has a right to know.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah. And maybe like in a Matt's case, Mr. Lee, where, if Matt has a feel for the game and he's back there and he has a feel for a game, he has a feel for this pitcher and a feel what's going on with this hitter, and he's not on the same page with that coach. Coach, I don't think we should do this right now this time. It's a game field.
And I'll tell you another, not to cut you off, Stoney, but if Matt's behind the plate and Matt know what's going on and I trust him enough to know what's going on, I'm not going to ask the pitcher how he feels. I'm going to ask Matt how he's throwing.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That would be the smarter question.
Yeah.
That would, and also to add on to what you guys are saying, like, at the end of the day, if the catcher doesn't know what he's doing, it's because the coach hasn't taught him. So, like, really, I mean, if what we're talking about here is a lack of understanding and a lack of education, because there's not that many catchers that were successful. that is the revolving door in the defense. That is the place that nobody knows how to coach, and then nobody knows how to teach, right? Because it's the hardest position to learn to play, because it's the least rewarding, and it's the hardest, and it's got the most mechanics. So, I understand where the coaches fall short, and I understand where the players fall short, which is why, if you can find the toughest guy and you can branch out and let people know, like, look, it's okay not to know how to run this part of the game because nobody's really played there. There's 9 positions on the field, and odds are you didn't play catcher. So if you've never had that experience, how are you supposed to think Like, it's okay not to know. Like, it's okay. Like, I just believe that there needs to be more education and awareness as to that part of the game. And then we don't have to worry about, say, like things like the commissioner trying to shorten the game. Let's just not let the catcher look in. Let's let the catcher call the pitches. And let's let the catcher be more ready to get that pitch to the plate within 8 seconds. So now there's no delays. And now, everything speeds up when you've got like a general. Like, yeah, Tom Brady is not the most athletic guy in the world. He's not the most physical guy, but he's the smartest guy. He's a good winner. So that's what you're looking for. It's the 6th round draft pick, the guy that can do the layers of the processing that's going on back there. There's more layers of thinking, and it doesn't matter if he hits 240 or 210 or 340. That's what we're missing. We're missing that as a whole in the game. And that's where the hole is. That's what I identify. That's like, to me, the biggest thing that needs work.
One time years ago, not to cut you off, and to follow up what you're saying and what we're talking about, it just reminded me of a long time ago, was playing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the late great Satchel Paige used to come out to the game. And it reminded me of a state, because he had all the stories in the world. You love sitting around listening to some of his stories. But I remember what you were saying, Matt, reminded me right then. I'm glad you let me cut in, because I'll forget in a heartbeat. But he made a statement one time. He said, baseball is the most predictable, unpredictable game in the world. He said there's a predictable thing because the bases are the same distance no matter where you go. There have been guys playing each one of those positions for all the time that the game has existed. Somebody plays in those positions. So it's predictable. When you make a lineup up, you got to have a first baseman, second baseman, shortstop, third baseman, and so on. He goes, you got to have a guy on the pitcher's mound. You got to have a guy behind the plate. And he's telling the story. That's all predictable. There's a exact predictable way the game is set up. And it's predictable that a pitcher has to throw. And he said, that's where predictable ends. After that, when a hitter starts swinging the bat and the guys start running around the bases, you never know where the ball's going to go. You never know where it's going to land. You just have to have a bunch of players out there that you trust to kind of understand where to be at the right time. And you can't, there's no absolutes. And that's the word he used. There's just no absolutes in baseball. That's what makes it a great game. Right. So today, the coaches and analytics and stuff, they're trying to make the game predictable when it's impossible to make it predictable, because the beauty of the game is when it's unpredictable. So you get kids out there thinking, oh, this should have happened. No, it shouldn't have, because you can't control it. You can just play it, right?
Yep.
It's a game. Exactly. It's not science.
That's right.
I mean, we could probably all sit here and tell a story of some of the strangest stuff we've ever seen or what we've been part of, because the same game goes on, the same distances, players playing the position, and every single night, every single day you play a game, you'll probably see something you've never seen before.
Well, now they are going forward with some of those rule changes in the minor leagues, like changing the distance of the mound and changing the size of the bases in various.
They're doing what with the mound?
I think in the Atlantic League, they're changing the distance actually from home plate to the rubber.
Is that
going
right?
back or forward?
Going back.
Oh, wow. Eddie, they're messing it up.
Jesus.
And then of course, the change with the bases is they're making it, I think, a 15-inch base instead of an 18-inch base instead of a 15-inch base. which again changes the distance between the bases. It takes away 6 inches basically between first and second.
Were they talking about robotic umpires too?
Yeah, that's coming, the ball and strike caller.
Now, what's Steve? What is the reasoning behind moving the pitcher's plate back?
It's going to make longer games.
Yeah, I had heard that to create. I think they're trying to create more balls in play and reduce the strikeouts.
Oh, I think what they're going to do is end up having more Tommy Johns.
Mm-hmm. And of course,
right, Stoney?
The shorter
they're going to start having the crow hop the pitch.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do? What's the age group that starts playing the longer bases? 13 years old. So you're going to have 13-year-olds throwing, from 63 feet.
They're already struggling.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and of course the shorter bases or the bigger bases, I think they said they're trying to induce more of the running game back, trying to bring that excitement back.
Well, I mean, they can bring it back, but they're not going to, now Matt's got to get guys down from 1.8 to 1.6.
Right.
Yeah. That's what you got to do. Like, don't let them run so quick. Like, hold the runners on, like pick over, slide step. It's have some deception again. Let's not change rules all the time. What's the point of changing a rule when you can just get better at the things that we've slipped on? Get better at the things that we maybe stop paying attention to for whatever reason. Call it analytics, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to have gone and done that for a little bit of time, but let's come back and realize that we've lost a little bit of the excitement. But instead of changing the rules to create more excitement, why don't we get back to what we were really good at, and playing the game, and we've taken steroids out of the game. So now what are we going to do? We're going to change the rules. Well, nobody asked for steroids, and then they came and went. Okay, so that's fine. And let's be realistic. That's what happened. Let's not change the rules. Let's go back and let's like fast forward from like 1986, and then let's reset. That's what we're doing right now. Let's just get back to like the Vince Coleman's and the Tom Herr eras of the St. Louis Cardinals days, and let's combine that with hitting the ball hard and getting backspin on the ball, and not uppercutting.
Thank you.
You don't have to be Aaron Judge to hit the ball 500 feet. You can be 5'10" and hit the ball properly and hit it 500 feet. You really can, especially with the way the balls and bats are. I mean,
without
and
a
the
doubt.
90, yeah, you got guys throwing 96 now all the time. All you can do is spin the ball right, connect it right. You're gonna hit the ball out of the park like it's nothing. I don't care how big or tall or strong or weak you are. If you get that barrel head out, you time it up, and you're fearless a little bit, you can do it.
And
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with a lot of that. We're missing the boat.
Another
I like to see an Eddie.
Changes.
I like to see an Eddie Cervantes, your shortstop, that's lower center of gravity, good athlete, has got a good plane on the ball. The fence is 330 down the line, and he hits 331 feet on a line drive. To me, that's the perfect home run. It don't have to be a big, giant, lofty home run that goes up in the top deck, and then he strikes out the next 3 times up.
Yeah, Leon, I used to like to rattle those boards out there in the alleys.
and me and Delino, we were having a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about, the importance of runs being scored. And, and I was telling him, I said, you got guys that hit a ball, 450 feet off the wall and end up at first base. And, everybody in the ballpark's excited, and he never scored.
He never scored. Exactly. Exactly.
So what's the point of the idea of his score?
Yep.
Yeah. So the rule change I just found it's lengthening the distance between home plate and a pitcher's rubber by 1 foot. So it'd be 61 feet. And then there's also a potential change of limiting the amount of pickoff throws to first to 2.
Oh,
wow.
Hey Matt,
So,
man, we're
so we
we're
know
gonna
after the
designate
second
you, Matt,
pickoff, you
as the guy
can't
that's
go
gonna go
anywhere.
change these
So
rules
so
back.
it's like it's so basically you're just saying you're gonna make the game longer because you go pick off, pitch out.
Yeah,
Hold,
Yeah.
You know
step
what I
off,
mean?
hold, step off,
Yeah.
hold.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
that's just silly. It
So how many
really
step
is.
offs per batter?
Yeah,
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
after that second pickoff, Matt, after that second pickoff, isn't that runner going to increase
First
his
move.
lead now?
Yeah, first
Yeah.
move. He
Well,
can't pick over.
what's the
Yeah,
key? What's the deterrent to getting a 17 or 20-foot lead off?
Yeah,
He
exactly.
can step off, but he can't pick over.
He can't pick
Yeah.
up. And what would be
Well,
the
after
benefit?
he's
Does
done
that
after
rule
2,
work?
right?
Well,
You know he
I
can't
mean,
come over after 2.
what's the difference between a step off pick over and a step off and no pick over? I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. You're getting to the point where like you're missing the point. And they're brutalizing and ruining parts of the integrity of what we're doing here.
yeah. I mean,
The game is the game. Lou Brock would be very upset with that.
You're
I mean,
not
what are you
kidding.
doing?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
how is that in any form baseball when you can only pick over twice? The fact that I can pick over 4 times and then fool the hitter and sneak a fastball in, and I can do that if I want to pick over 16 times and throw him, the toughest hitter in the game. That might be the only way you get the toughest hitter out, like a Barry Bonds.
But
It's
Matt,
And you take the cat and mouse game away from it.
but Matt, when a pitcher
That's
picks
exactly
over
right.
5 or 6, when a pitcher picks over 5 or 6 times in a row, you're a catcher. You're telling the guy, he's going. So you might have him step off, step back, go over. You're going to give him that little thumb, right? You do the little thumb to let him know to
Completely.
go over. And after the 4th or 5th time, the fans start going crazy. That's what they pay the ticket for. You love it.
Exactly.
Fans are into the game.
I'm
That's all
telling
part
you
of the
guys,
excitement.
why don't you finally realize that there's a guy over here? Why are we not throwing the pitch? Well, because this guy's super fast, and this is a really important base that we don't want him to have. And so everybody focuses up on the action. Now, after 5 pickoffs, I slide step. And if he knows not to go, it might be 1-0. Now it's a good hitter's count. Now look at the action building. Now you got action building. And do I want to pick over again? Well, maybe I will. Maybe I won't. At least you're watching and drinking your beer. Relax. Don't worry. Don't worry so much about what's going to happen. You don't necessarily get the good hitter, good pitcher, good catcher, good runner combo all game long. You get it when it happens. So stop trying to rush the best parts of the game. The best parts of the game are the nuances. Football doesn't have a lot of nuances. It's black and white. It's X and O. Basketball is like the more physical player wins. The better scheme wins if you have better physical players. But baseball is not that. Baseball, you can have lesser talented people. You can have smaller individuals, but the smarter person wins, and the smarter team wins. The person that frustrates the athlete because the athlete's never been frustrated before, that's the team that might have lesser players but win the game.
Yeah.
So I love that. And that's what kind of we go back to caught stealing all the time. And I pick the opportunity to talk about it, but that's really what we're doing with that is that you can either do it or you can't do it. And we're not fooling people. We're trying to get the reality out there. And so with what we're talking about with pitchers, with not looking into the dugout for sign, just let the players play. Let them play. If he runs on the first pitch and he's safe, okay, he got the bag. Let's go to the next play. So what?
Yeah.
And if it takes 16 pitches for that one base to be exchanged or not exchanged, and then you have to wait 3 minutes to go to commercial break on the TV network, relax. Don't worry about it. We'll play your commercial when the guy's out or safe. And I get it because they're trying to change the rules to get things faster on the TV side. But why not, from the perspective of the person who's selling beer and wine and food at the game, why would you not want people to stay at your venue longer? That's silly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But why would you want to make it shorter instead of worrying about making it more exciting?
Make it a better quality. Don't make it shorter.
Yeah.
Make it better quality.
And to me, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I know from generation to generation, when I was coming up, and not to say biased or one way or another, but when people pay for tickets to come into a ball game, they pay for parking, they pay for tickets. They can't bring in their own food. They got to buy a $10 hot dog, a $10 bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.
And for a family of four, it's a lot of money to come there and sit there and watch the game that's being played today. So back in the day, and I'll tell you straight up, there was about 26.5 to 27% African-American players playing the game. It was way more diverse. You had the Willie Mayses, the Hank Aaron, the McCoveys that grew up on the sandlots, grew up in leagues where they didn't have analytics and scientifics. And Willie Mays, to me, and Roberto Clemente from Dominican were some of the most exciting players. I would be in my seat every time. Up out of my seat at Candlestick Park watching Willie Mays, because I knew he was running. Everybody in the world knew he was about to run.
Yeah.
And so, there were certain players the fans came to see, but now this lays down to 5%. And you got less players coming through this travel ball thing, learning the analytics, and it's gotten to the major league level now. To me, that when you've taken a kind of a whole culture out of the game and said you decided to go in travel ball to a money game where now it's more exclusionary to young African-American kids or inner city kids or Hispanic kids, I think you're taking a whole level of excitement. Now you see basketball and football winning out on excitement because a lot of these kids, heck, my cousin Ronnie Lott's a Hall of Fame football player, but he was an outstanding baseball player. But his thing was, well, I wasn't quite getting the opportunity coming up playing baseball. Mm-hmm. So to me, those are adjustments, that we talk about. We have a lot of young African-American kids playing Little League ball, but they by the time they're 12 years old, they lose interest because the game is too expensive or just simply not exciting enough. They say, well, Stoney, this game is a little boring. But now what Stoney's doing in Baltimore, they're making the game a little more exciting. We want to see these kids running out there having fun and having the ability to exploit their talents.
Well, some of those kids that aren't having fun at the lower levels are the kids that seem to have more talent than the others, and it kind of speaks to. I remember when I first tried out for Little League. I didn't play Little League until I was 10 years old, and but there was a tryout, and I remember there were guys that got cut, and they didn't play Little League. Nowadays, and it's been going on for quite a while, Little League has created this monster organization where, and it's not just Little League, but it's the other youth leagues where when they have tryout, it's not really a tryout. All it is it's an evaluation workout so that everybody that signs up for that tryout or evaluation, every kid gets on a team.
Yeah.
And so what happens is if they don't have enough teams, all the kids that are signed up, well, they make new teams. And what it does is it dilutes the talent. And so some of those kids that are better, it's so easy because the talent has been diluted that now it's not challenging to them. It's not as challenging.
Right.
And I know that definitely has happened with the dilution of talent at the lower level.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's spot on. You hit it right on the head. Me seeing it, year in and day out, the talent is dispersed. You get a couple good kids here, good kids there, because those travel ball teams are coming in, and any good kid that you have, they coming and getting them, and we got bags, we got this, we got this to offer you, and now your local neighborhood teams are no good anymore.
Yeah.
And so, man, he's not, our best player is gone now. Man, I don't want to play anymore. We're not any good anymore.
Where back in the day, we could, when me and Eddie during our era, little ahead of you, Matt, I think we got you by about 20 years, right?
Yep. Right.
Yeah, I think we got you by that much too, right, Steve? And Stoney, I know, well, Stoney's my son's age. He's like my son, so I know he's younger.
Yeah.
But we used to play winter ball, even when the minor leaguers would come back home to Sacramento, play out at William Land Park, that was kind of like historic. You know, the newspapers covered everything. And us as amateurs, even before we became pro players, we would play winter ball with the pro guys. So I know for me, speaking for me, when I signed with St. Louis Cardinals in 1971 and I went out my first year in A ball, I'm going like, holy cow, we had better competition playing winter ball at William Land Park during the winter, because there were AA, AAA guys coming in. We were high school kids facing professional level pitching, and we were keeping up with it. So when we went out to minor league ball, it was no big deal for us at the time, because it was like, man, the competition here, the only thing we ran into were the politics of the game. You know, then it becomes
exactly,
you know, a little more cutthroat, because you're trying to move from rookie league to short A to low A to high A to double A to triple A. And you're competing with everybody in your organization, trying to get ahead of them, you know?
Yeah.
And then in those days, you didn't see very many trades. So I got stuck in AAA behind guys that I was like the insurance policy. And I'm trying to get the other organization. They go, well, we're not in the business of trading our prospects. And nowadays, heck, you'd have been traded 3 times by the time you got to AAA.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
You can edit that.
I just finished my second cup of coffee. I can go a little longer.
Well, I still got my coffee in here. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the shots I miss, the courage to never give up, and the wisdom not to throw my clubs in the water.
There is one thing I wanted to talk to Matt about again, and I know he talked about it on a few podcasts ago. You know, whenever I'm watching a game now, I see all the catchers moving their gloves so much to try to, quote, you know, frame that pitch, but there's so much glove movement. Even some announcers and commentators are starting to talk about it. And I know, you know, we talked about it in the podcast before, but it's almost distracting.
Yeah. We could do it.
Matt, can I add something before you answer that?
Please do.
Because it's the same pretty much. I went out to Stoney, you're in the East Coast, but Folsom was playing a team called De La Salle the other day, and De La Salle is a big giant powerhouse. You probably might have seen a movie about their football team out in the Bay Area. They're strong in baseball, football, especially football, basketball. They can recruit from all over the country. The umpire, Eddie, is I know his name, but I know you know him, but I can't think of his name right now because you probably umpired with him. And the catcher for De La Salle is a big, strong kid, left-hand hitter. He pretty good hitter too, but receiving, he really was kind of moving. He was really jerking balls into the zone. And I literally, because I was sitting right in the booth behind home plate, and I heard the umpire tell him, said, son, as long as you keep jerking that ball in, I'm not giving you anything. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we talked about it after the game in the parking lot. You know, he said the catcher from Folsom, you know, Ryan Stafford, he's going to San Luis Obispo, and we've worked a lot on his hitting. That's when I think you've missed, Matt. I don't know if you had Ryan when he was younger. I had him since he was 8. But his receiving is really smooth. He blocks the ball easily. He protects the umpire. Where the other catcher's moving so much, a couple of low balls hit the umpire. And then he's jerking balls in. And so go ahead, Matt, because he was saying, as long as you're jerking the ball in, I'm not giving you that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you know, it's very simple from a catcher's perspective. You expect every pitch that's thrown to be in the dirt. When it's not in the dirt, you wait for the ball and let it hit your glove and stick it. Like I tell my catchers, you want your glove to feel like it's a big pile of mud. When the ball hits a pile of mud, what does it do? It sticks.
Just sticks.
It does not move. If the pitcher threw a ball, show the umpire that the pitch was a ball. If the pitcher threw a ball on the edge, show the umpire that the pitch was a ball on the edge. Like that's your only job. The umpire will give you the pitch that he wants to give you based on his train of thought at the moment the pitch comes in. Don't tell the umpire by you jerking the ball around what you want the pitch to be. We know you want the pitch to be a strike. What is the pitch? Are you helping the umpire, or are you inhibiting him to do a good job? So that's it. It's simple. And you know what? It's like the guys that are jerking the balls around, like these guys are not bad. They're not terrible. And if you make, if you work with somebody, you're going to have a lot better rapport and tenure. Call it a career, call it 10 years, call it the full game. You're going to have a better chance to get the strikes in the ninth inning when you're giving them a good look from the first through the fourth, first through the seventh. The only thing that matters is the end of the game, the last 6 outs. That's really what matters. That's when all the moves happen. That's when everything. So if you're not building your rapport from the first 6 or 7 innings, why do you think you're going to get the pitch in the ninth? So, it's a long-term thing. It's a season wide, it's a career wide. It's a way of doing things properly, like good swings, like they always say, like, you get jammed. Good hitters get jammed. They get hits. They get little bleeders. That's like the same thing with catchers that catch. If the pitch is 6 inches off, just stick it. Show him that it was 6 inches off. If he feels like calling it because he's got a thing against the hitter, he's going to call it. Now you're out of the inning. Like, you'd be surprised how many more pitches you'll get just because you showed the umpire where the ball was and he knows you didn't pull it. He's like, I'm out of here. That's strike 3. And then there you go. That's where the human element is important, and that's where we can't lose sight of that as a baseball culture, whatever you want to call it. We can't lose sight of that, because that's where the beauty of this game lies, is that if the catcher is working with the pitcher and the battery is working with the umpire, good luck, hitters. Good luck. We got 3 against 1. So if you're working against the umpire, it's maybe not that way. So,
well, what's going to happen is when you really need that umpire to make a call for you in the 9th inning, you're not going to get it, right?
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting at. That's the short. Yeah, that's the short version of that.
That's exactly. And that also, as being a coach and you sitting over there watching the game, and if you see that guy snatching that glove, and I'm looking at the catcher hitter, and I'm watching that catcher snatch the glove over there and get those strikes at the in between innings, I need to talk to that umpire. I'm like, Mr.
Right.
I'm okay with, if he's sticking it there and holding it there, I'm okay with that. But if he's pulling it from over out of the batter's box, we got a problem.
Can't get it. That's right.
Yeah.
Steve,
it's hard enough to be an umpire.
Exactly. And you know what? I had the opportunity for over 20 years. I did from high school to junior college, Division II, and Division I college. And I tell you, you get to a point where you're making the umpires probably 90+% of the time, you've made the decision on what you're going to call before it hits his glove. You usually know. Very seldom are you affected by what he does with his glove after he catches it.
Right.
The only thing, but like you were saying, Matt, what you can do is you can get pitches that are just barely off the plate by sticking it instead of pulling. Now, then the 2 terms that were used all the time were framing and pulling pitches. Pulling pitches are when you're trying to pull something and it just looks terrible. Framing is sticking and closing your glove so you make it look smaller, and part of the glove comes into if it's on one side of the plate or this side. When you close the glove around the ball, now you've made the glove smaller and it kind of sneaks into the strike zone a little more, and so it looks better. But
a frame,
it's not pulling the pitch exactly.
A frame is just the border of the zone. I think the Molina brothers. I think it was Jose. Maybe I saw. He talked about its presentation. You're presenting the ball to the umpire. The border is the frame of a picture. We actually have a zone, and there's actually lines to it, as we all know. That would be the frame of the picture. When you frame a ball, all you're doing is showing where the ball is compared to the frame. Like, you're not jerking the pitch, you're not moving the pitch. that is the opposite of what we're talking about. That is the cheat of
Exactly.
what we're saying. Like that's, and it doesn't work. And what we're finding is it's ugly, and you're getting people that are just casual observers going, what's going on? Like, why is that not a strike? And then they're actually brought to the light that you don't jerk balls from out of the zone into the zone, and you actually lose more pitches than you gain.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at. And I think it's just, it always goes back to a lack of being able to teach the position properly, a lack of wanting to work hard, and an abundance of people that think it's an easy thing to do. You just got to be able to hit. Like, no, it's more of a shortstop type position. It's more of a guy that if he hits 215 to 230, you're lucky. That's fine, as long as he's as good as your shortstop is at fielding ground balls. If your shortstop isn't good at fielding ground balls, where does he play? He goes out to the outfield, and that's what happens. Or he goes to the bench because he can't hit.
Well,
The only guy that it just doesn't work that way.
They're already sticking that infield out in the outfield. He goes from shortstop and he goes out to, he's like the roving in the 10th player in slow pitch softball. He goes from shortstop out to short right field to catch ground balls out there.
Yeah. But guys,
exactly.
the last another component to what we were just talking about with a catcher framing the ball properly, from a hitter standpoint, I'll say for me, and my big thing in the batter's box is to be sure or feel like I have pretty good plate coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if a ball's just outside, I might look like that ball's a little further outside, but a good catcher could make you think that ball wasn't quite as far outside as you thought it was.
Right.
And it makes you second guess. But if you get a guy reaching out and it's out there and he grabs it and jerks it, sometimes you feel like, man, all he's doing is making you focus more, getting you a little upset. And hey, you keep jerking that thing, I might wrap this bat around. It's kind of one of those things.
I tell you what, like a guy like you, Leon, who's a really good hitter, if I got you somehow miraculously 0-2, I would sit off the edge of that plate, like maybe 6 or 10 inches off the plate, and angle my body back towards and he'd hit me in the middle of the body, and I'd probably extend a little bit to it so that it looks like, from your perspective, oh my God, that looks like a strike. And the umpire's obviously not going to call it because it's 6 to 10 inches off, but I don't flinch. And the next time that you see that ball out there, you swing at it.
Without a doubt.
Because you thought, whoa, maybe the umpire just missed that one because he made that look like it was right where he wanted it.
But
why would he want the pitch to be a ball?
Exactly. But you also got to rise out of the fans. The fans go, ooh.
Yes.
When the umpire says ball, the fans go, ooh. And it does.
Right.
It creates a little adrenaline in the umpire and myself. It changes the whole ball game.
That's the best part of the game, is the fans and the adrenaline and the real time emotion of. That's what made the difference between playing an extended spring and getting the low A ball, or getting from low A to high A, or from high A to double A, or double A to triple A, is the amount of people that are sitting there yelling at you. The level of energy that's at the game, it's crazy different. It's like, that's why you don't just see guys go from rookie ball to triple A. That's because they're not ready. It's the energy level that really does. You have to be mature to handle that. So
one of the kids asked me one time, Mr. Lee, who says, what do you do when the fans boo you? When you were playing pro ball and the fans boo you? I said, that's simple. Look where they're booing me from. They're up in the bleachers and I'm down on the field. So I don't mind if they're booing me from up there. They paid money to come in there and boo me. So they wish they were down on the field where I was,
Yeah, perspective, all perspective.
That's right. Well, guys, listen, I know we've been going at it, and we're going to start wrapping it up. Stoney, always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
I'm going to be on the phone with you here in a couple of days anyway. Eddie, Matt, I mean, you guys, hey, this is Sandlot baseball on video right here. So,
yes, thank you. Thanks, Leon.
Steve, I always appreciate you moderating us, and this is what I love, sitting here talking baseball with the guys. I think we're gonna have a line of interesting guests coming up here over the next few weeks. And I think also Ricky couldn't be here today, but he said Charlie Hayes was coming on. We got Gary Templeton coming on. We got some Delano. We got some Marquise Grissom. We got some Corey Patterson, who is going to pick some time to come on. And all these big league guys got a lot of great knowledge and information to share. So they got to go through us, the gauntlet, and we'll sit here and talk some baseball in the future, right, Steve?
Yeah, and Eddie and Stoney and Matt, Leon, of course, I always appreciate talking baseball with you guys. So thanks. And thanks for commenting on all the observations I make and everything. So it's always fun to hear from professionals like you and kind of reaffirm kind of what I'm thinking when I see these things. So it's a good time talking to you guys. I appreciate it.
Well, we gotta get you more aggressive, Steve, because to break in on this group, man, you got to have a bigger voice. You got to go, hey, I want my time.
No, I like to, kind of like you guys were talking about letting the kids play. I like to kind of sit back and observe and listen, and you learn more by listening than talking.
There you go.
Well, it's all about the kids, right, guys?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
The
Completely.
future.
We want to see
That's
them
right.
grow up in a fun game. I think the game right now, to me, I'm old school, so I might have a biased opinion. I think they're messing with the game too much. I think the game historically has been, it's been America's game. The smell of the grass. Now you got turf, the hot dogs. Now they got, steak sandwiches and garlic fries. Just the game is a little, I know times change, but for the kids' sake, I just like them to step across that line, smell the grass, feel free to make decisions, be accountable, make an error, feel the pain of the game, feel the joy of the game, and not have a coach out there yelling and screaming and telling you what to do. I don't like people telling me how to butter my bread when I eat breakfast. I like to butter my own toast. And,
Yep.
I like to swing the bat that feels good to me, not one that somebody tells me that's better for me,
Mhm.
So I like to give the game back to the kids and let them play. And that's what our goals are in the future.
I agree with that.
Yes, sir.
Well said.
All right, guys.
Okay, guys. Thank
All right,
you.
We will
Guys.
talk to you guys
Awesome.
next week. Same time, same station.
Yep.
That sounds good. Great to talk to everyone. Thank you.
All
All
right.
All right.
everyone.
Be safe,
Take care.
guys.
Be safe.
Be real
Yes.
safe.
Be safe. Take
Okay.
care.
All right, guys.
All right. One love.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
I want to thank our baseball panel tonight, Stoney Briggs, Matt Ceriani, and Eddie Cervantes, and of course, Mr. Leon Lee. And I want to remind everybody, of course, of our main podcast site, Talking Baseball with Leon Lee.podbean.com. And you can also find the podcast on Google Podcast and Spotify just by searching for Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. And remember, this week we have Jackie Robinson Day on April 15th. And one of his famous quotes is, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." We hope that everybody stays safe, and we will talk baseball with you all again soon.